Welcome to another live stream, everybody. Our Dynasty Fantasy Football season is officially underway, and we did do a live stream with Dylan. Hope you enjoyed that. Had my first guest on a couple days ago, kind of reflecting that, but we're going to celebrate the NFL playoffs a little bit. Only happens once a year, goes by in the blink of an eye, and really lasts less than a month. Actually, the Super Bowl 58 celebration, before you know it, will be happening in just a couple of weeks from now. Just a little over 4 weeks from now. So some of you are in weekly fantasy-style competitions for the playoffs, so we're going to rank defenses today. I did this mid-season. You all seemed to like it. Before we get going, I do want to shout out a pair of links. We have our Armchair Fantasy Football merch in the description below. Very affordable prices, 30-day return policy, but most importantly, comfortable merchandise. We've got high-quality shirts for I want to say $35 if you want a sweatshirt, and then the shirts are around $20, caps, mugs, you name it, we probably have it. If we don't have it, we will work to have it for sure. And the other link is a free Discord chat. We've got about 10 of you in there right now. That's where we got a general chat, a trades chat, an advice chat, and then, of course, I've got my research chat where I am just dumping stats and all that analytics stuff that some of you may like. If that sounds like your cup of tea, definitely make sure you join the Discord. We bounce ideas off of each other, do a little bit of everything, to be honest. And then also check out the newest video we just dropped 2 days ago where I predict the entire NFL playoffs bracket for 2024, all the way from Super Wildcard Weekend, which begins tomorrow, to who will raise the Lombardi Trophy in Super Bowl 58. We're almost at 1,000 views for that, so if you can go on over and check that out after the conclusion of this live stream, I would greatly appreciate it. I see we got Andy in the chat. Andy, what's going on? Without further ado, let's do this thing. Let's go in and rank our defenses in the 2024 NFL playoffs from number 14 to number 1. Pretty much just going to rank the current state of them. So we're going to keep injuries in mind. We're going to keep past performance in mind. Weather conditions, you'll hear me make mentions of those as well. We're going from number 14 to number 1. Who is number 14, you may ask? It's the Eagles. It is the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, we haven't seen that in general. I want to say last year and even the year before, most teams were plotting and trying to find out ways to get past their secondary, through their secondary, have success through the air. Now they're just doing it at ease. The Eagles have the second worst passing defense in 2023-2024 in the regular season. Only the Washington Commanders were worse, all right? They need to show up offensively every single week to have a chance. I think the game against the Bucs could be interesting. I do have the Eagles taking that one. Not too comfortably, though. I mean, it's more or less just because the Buccaneers don't have a lot of guys who, outside of obviously Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and the core, they've had the Super Bowl experience, but I think Baker Mayfield might be getting the playoff jitters. It's been a couple of years for him. Run-heavy scheme for Philly, that's kind of helped them throughout the duration of this year. They're milking those long drives, 6, 7, 8, 9-minute drives that keeps the defense off the field and rested, but most importantly, the first half of that statement, it just keeps them off the field. That can kind of mask the issue of having a poor defense, but make no mistake, teams have been driving down the field vertically with ease. Who is number 13? It's going to be the Lions. We might kind of be making a hot take here, but this team also needs to kind of get into shootouts to have some success and to get a victory. Another poor passing defense. We're looking at a unit giving up 247 passing yards per game. Keep in mind, and I will say this with a lot of these teams, they all have winning records. We didn't get any 8-9s or 8-1s in the playoffs this year. Teams do pass more when they are behind. So I'm kind of trying to take these raw statistics with a grain of salt. But for the most part, I mean, if you're towards the bottom ranks and you're, again, if we're talking about Philly in the depths near teams like the Washington Commanders, well, maybe, just maybe, there is a larger issue at hand. That's the Lions at number 13. Who's at number 12? We talked about him before. We'll say him again. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They got lit up by C.J. Stroud earlier this year, and not like most teams that got lit up. We're talking over 400 passing yards, a career day for the rookie, and a victory, and they allowed him to drive down pretty much the length of the field in about a minute. The Buccaneers also are another team that has really had to rely on their offensive output. Their run game has not been great. It's actually been more or less Rachaad White out in the pass-catching game. He's a better receiving back than he is somebody who's going to go ground and pound on you. But the defense has seemed like it has a lot of holes in it. Obviously, Winfield out there making a few great plays a game. You've got, I don't know. It's tough to watch them because you think the Bucs are okay when they're up a couple of possessions and then they kind of just fork over. Number 11, we're going to go with another team we just mentioned. And we'll give them the seats here since we can really only fit 2 to 3 in per category. The Houston Texans. The Texans, they're another team that's kind of been in a lot of shootouts. Front seven, though, I will say they'd be a lot lower if it was not for their front seven. And in general, the Texans' run defense. They're only giving up 3.5 yards per carry. If you look that up among all NFL teams throughout the regular season, they're actually near the top of the rankings for that. I believe there's only 1 or 2 teams above them right now. Front seven, that's very good. Again, though, if the Texans are up and a team has to throw their way back into the game, we've seen it more times than not, it ends up being close. If you're a Texans fan, you haven't seen a whole lot of comfortable wins this year, and it's really, again, because of that secondary. Number 10. Let's go to Green Bay. No, I'm not hating on the Packers. Yes, I am looking at the numbers. This is a team that has shown up as of late. I will give them their flowers. But Joe Barry's job security is still a hot topic in Green Bay. I can tell you right now, I work at a radio station in Wisconsin, and Joe Barry is mentioned in about 40 to 50% of the topics related to the Packers right now, especially this time of year. Is his job safe if they can pull off the upset against the Cowboys? Is this an insufferable situation? Is the damage he's done irreparable? I don't know. What I do know is Joe Barry's defense gave up 30 points to the Carolina Panthers just a couple of weeks ago, and then his team shut down the Vikings and the Bears, a pair of NFC North rivals, in order to get into the postseason. So they did show up. Now, the Vikings, it was Jaren Hall and then Nick Mullins, but Justin Jefferson was healthy. Jordan Addison was out there for most of it, and then TJ Hawkinson as well before getting hurt. So then you look over at the Bears, the offensive coordinator situation with Luke Getsy. He is gone now. You've got the argument, though, right? Fields is dynamic. Moore had a career year, 1,346 yards with 9 touchdowns through the air and 1 on the ground. So there is some productivity that this team has shut down. I will say, when you look at the Jaren Hall / Nick Mullins-led Vikings and the Bears in general, those two offenses especially pale in comparison to the Dallas freaking Cowboys. That's their opponent in week 1. I get worried when you hear names like CeeDee Lamb, like Jake Ferguson, like Dak Prescott, who is taking care of the ball more than he really ever has. He came into this season and made a bold claim for him. I'm going to throw less than 10 interceptions. He threw 9. MVP candidate for sure. It seems like it's Lamar and then Dak, if I had to guess. Tough challenge for the Packers. Again, I'm kind of considering what's going to happen in the road ahead as well. And I think the Packers, honestly, have one of the toughest matchups in the entire NFL going into Super Wildcard Weekend. You also have to think of the conditions. This is going to be played indoors in Dallas, so a home game for a Cowboys team led by Mike McCarthy and a Cowboys team that is really looking for their first deep postseason run in a very long time. They haven't even sniffed the NFC Championship for a plethora of years and a plethora of chances that seem like they just went stale. Coming in at number 9, we will go with the Dolphins. You could argue that because this team plays in a warmer climate, that leads to more aggressive play, more teams trying to push the ball vertically again, and as a result, scoring more because they're taking more chances. Andy's got Green Bay. All right, I could see it. I think Green Bay's offense is, again, not going to be the issue. Jordan Love has looked phenomenal. Whether Christian Watson's in there or not, I really won't think matter, or I don't think will matter a whole lot because it's been the staples of Jaden Reed, Luke Musgrave when he's healthy, Tucker Kraft, Bo Melton as of late, and of course Dontavion Wicks. I think the tools that Jordan Love has had in front of him, regardless of what they are or who they are, even when Aaron Jones was out, when A.J. Dillon was out, when Emmanuel Wilson was getting hurt, whoever's been out there, Jordan Love has been able to wheel and deal and get this team victories when their backs were against the wall, when they were 3-6, now finishing the season at 9-8. Right, so winning 6 of the last 8 contests, and each of their last 3 when they were 6-8. Yeah, I think Green Bay is going to put on a show, but I think Dallas is just too overwhelming on offense. It'll be close, though. I do think Green Bay covers the spread of about a touchdown. So with the Dolphins coming in at number 9, you can argue, again, they play in a warmer climate. Opposing offenses are kind of able to push the ball vertically, and they just feel more confident in doing so as opposed to playing in a place like Lambeau, right? Going by history, that's understandable. Jalen Ramsey, Vic Fangio, they've help this team get better with their presence. Anytime you have that lead corner, that lead defensive back who has a track record of dominance, and you could say the same thing about the defensive coordinator in Vic Fangio, dominant, had his defense pretty much number one across all statistical categories in 2018 to 2019 when the Bears went to the playoffs and then lost via a double doink. And then he goes to the Broncos, doesn't have the most successful head coaching stint, and I might be mincing words when I say that. It was pretty brutal. But the Broncos' defense was phenomenal. Did he inherit some great talent? You can make that argument. But he's a defensive-minded coach, back where he's comfortable, working with a defense that has historically, in recent memory, given up a lot of points. Now, I will say this team has not been perfect. They got jumped on by the Panthers earlier this year as well. Yes, I'm just going to use the worst team in football as a point of reference. I think it's fair. They went 2-15. We saw some odd soft coverage defense in the 2-minute drill towards the end of the first half in the final week of the regular season against the Bills. It did not come back to bite them because Josh Allen did not throw the ball in the end zone as time expired pretty much. And there was a tackle made in bounce. But in general, that could have bit them. The score could have gotten worse. And their defense really just got cooked all day long by somebody in Josh Allen who has now thrown 18 interceptions over the course of a 17-game season. So a lot to worry about for sure. Andy's saying Dak made me cry in fantasy a few times. Yeah, Dak, has the reputation, going back to that Packers pick, as a turnover machine, but he's really thrown that away this year. One of the many things that came back to bite this Dolphins team, though, is just this weird prevent defense that they were playing with 30 to 40 seconds left. And, the Bills had all the time in the world to drive the ball down the field. Allen was really utilizing his legs, so it was a big James Cook day for a bit. And then he was spreading the ball around, had way too much time in the pocket and out of the pocket from there to kind of extend and make the most out of broken plays. Number 8, the Rams. This is kind of a shock, right? You go back a couple of years ago, and in any 14-team pool, you would think they're top 5. They're at number 8. Aaron Donald, end of story. I really think he's kind of carrying the bulk of the workload here to keep this team as high as number 8. And we've got some pretty stiff competition if you look at the rest of the board down here, so that's also it. Defense wins championships. That's definitely a phrase for a reason. But over 230 passing yards per game allowed. Donald still gets pressures, but he's getting up there in age as well. There was not too long ago, 2 years ago, he was considering retirement. And the further back that gets in our memory, the more we realize Aaron Donald is probably going to hang it up in the next year or two, maybe 3. That's a high-impact position for sure. All right, folks, we are ranking the 2024 NFL playoff defenses from 14 to number 1. Make sure you leave a like. Make sure you subscribe if you have not already. And, of course, comment any of your takes in terms of how I'm ranking these. Do you have somebody higher, lower? You know the drill. So make sure you do that. And then we also have our free Discord link in the description. And we have our merchandise link in the description as well. So make sure you take advantage of those. The merchandise, obviously not free, but very affordable and high quality, I might add. We go through Teespring. And the Discord link is free. Free advice, free, I don't want to say consultation, but free live answers for the most part. I get back to my comments on YouTube usually within the next 5 or 6 hours, depending on how my workday is going. The Discord, it's kind of just popping up right at the top of my phone, and I'm able to answer it pretty quickly, right? Don't have to go over as many hurdles. So, the Rams in at number 8. That is the bottom half of this 14-team pool, if you will. Again, leave any comments you have for sure. Andy saying, I think Donald getting to Goff is the only way the Rams win. Goff on the road has struggled a lot too, but the Lions don't have to worry about that. I think pressure is definitely going to have to be made when you have an angry Amon-Ra St. Brown getting snubbed from the Pro Bowl. And yes, I do think that's going to be a factor, among other things, among the dominant backfield and the 1-2 punch of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery as well. Number 7, we kick off the top half of this, if you will. We'll keep them in the B tier. The Steelers. This is another team that I really don't think has the same edge that we're accustomed to seeing. TJ Watt being out obviously is going to be huge. JJ Watt was joking on Twitter, photoshopped himself into his brother's jersey in the number 90 and said, think anybody will notice? I think we will, JJ, but who knows, right? Maybe TJ Watt just magically recovered in a couple of days. In all seriousness, looking at the profile of this game, I did allude that weather would be a factor. Lots of snow here. Likely a run-heavy scheme between James Cook and then Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris on Pittsburgh's end. I think we could see both teams really keeping the ball on the ground just for the sake of turnovers. Buffalo, last I checked, has over a foot of snow wind gusts of up to 65 miles an hour, and they just threw a post. I wish I had the picture on me, but you can look it up on X or Twitter. They just threw up a post asking individuals over 18 with a worker's permit and a valid ID to go in and shovel to make sure that field is ready. Their maintenance is saying this is too tall of a task. Their field operations cannot do this alone. People are getting paid $20 an hour, so Buffalo, you're welcome if this is free advertising. Anybody in the Buffalo area, you want to make a quick buck and make a good memory, I think they're giving food as well. But yeah, that's what's going on there. We look back and stay on topic with the Steelers. They're giving up 227 passing yards per game, middle of the pack. Again, just they don't have the same bite they've had in the past. We look over at the Bills, and that's how we're going to kick off our A tier. Again, going in descending order, I guess. So, well, yeah, from 14 to 1. The Bills are number 6. Plenty of improvement down the stretch. Rasul Douglas, that acquisition, has really added some bite to this defense. They look a lot more aggressive. They're forcing more turnovers. Again, the front seven has looked great. There were questions, of course, with, the linebacking core not looking the same anymore. The Bears may have poached a certain individual named Tremaine Edmonds. How were they going to look? Secondary looks great as of late. Getting home with the front seven, they're finding creative ways to do it. We'll put it that way. I've got them at number 6. The weather will definitely help them and could knock them up even more. Andy saying, I've got Pittsburgh over Kansas City. That's Buffalo, Corey. Yeah. So in Buffalo, they are worried. They are worried that maybe, just maybe, the field won't be ready in time. All right. And then for the Chiefs coming in at number 5, the weather will be on their side this weekend. I bring up the weather kind of being an equalizer, obviously favoring the defense. We look at what we're expected to see. Temperature around 0, wind chill around -20 to -30 degrees. Now, why didn't I say the weather would be on the side of the Dolphins? Their defense surely could benefit from this. Well, for one, Kansas City is used to this. But then if we look back at the Kansas City side, Chris Jones has been disruptive, 10.5 sacks. Kansas City's obviously got players who are used to being in these conditions in the postseason. This late in the NFL season, they found themselves in this situation more times than not, right? Johnny saying, choose a defense and ride it out. That's my motto. Tough to stream each week. That's fair. That is fair. One of the snow capitals of the world. Yeah, that's what Buffalo's had the recognition for, I guess, and the reputation for, as they had like 6 feet with drifts last year. I remember there were stories of neighbors shoveling the driveways of some of these players so they could get to practice. Pretty cool stuff. But so I had the Chiefs at number 5. Chris Jones, again, disruptive. One of his better years and one of his later years of his career, too. 10.5 sacks so far. Kansas City, used to the weather, as brutal and as cold as it might be. They are used to it. I think that gives them the slight advantage, especially against a team like the Dolphins, who are usually playing in a tropical environment. We'll go to number 4. This is where it really gets tough. I mean, the 49ers, the Browns, the Cowboys, and the Ravens, I think each of these teams has a strong case to be number 1. And in all honesty, all 4 of them I'm putting in the S tier. At number 4, I've got the thumbnail man, Myles Garrett. Best pass defense in the entire NFL. 167 passing yards per game given up. The run defense has been on and off. Garrett is obviously extremely disruptive. But these other teams, and their oppositions, I will say as well, they have been quite dominant. C.J. Stroud against this Browns defense with both teams' seasons on the line is going to be very interesting to me. I do think the Browns are going to be doing great against a rookie quarterback in the playoffs. We'll have to see if Stroud gets any jitters. Hasn't looked like he'll have any, but also facing somebody in Joe Flacco who's made his fair share of playoff runs, to say the very least. All right, number 3. We're going to go with the 49ers. This feels wrong. And also, I just want to point out, I don't think it's any coincidence that when you look at the top defenses here, and these are just my rankings, but there's a lot of stats supporting them as I'm trying to include them with each pick. These are your Super Bowl favorites, right? This is a team that I think could definitely make some noise with that 2nd seed. A lot of people are saying their Super Bowl window is kind of closing. I guess dark horse if you really want to dip all the way down to LA. Defending champs. I think this team has a real shot to go all the way. The 49ers are the most complete team in the entire NFL, top to bottom. Dallas is flashy and looking fun again, and there's your other 1 seed in the Ravens. So no coincidence at all. Defense does win championships. That is an evergreen phrase, in my opinion. I don't think it'll ever go out of relevancy. Number 3, we got the 49ers. Tough to do. Again, argument for the most complete team in the NFL, top to bottom, and defense is no exception. Charvarius Ward, Nick Bosa, an all-around dominant linebacker, and one of the best, if not the best linebacker in the game, in Fred Warner. This team can pressure with effectiveness, but has no issue getting home with a 4-man pass rush either. They do not have to blitz to be disruptive. I've got them at number 3. Now, between number 2 and number 1, who do I have? Number 2 is going to be the Cowboys. Micah Parsons is one of the most disruptive pass rushers I have ever watched, and you have to make them at least top 2. I almost made them top 2 not to. When you have somebody on the defensive side of the ball being, in the MVP conversation, he's got odds. He's up there. I've seen him and Myles Garrett towards the bottom half of those lists, depending on how many people are on there. Yeah. The last time I saw something like that was with J.J. Watt, and that's because he was catching touchdowns at the goal line, and they were throwing him in as a tight end and registering him as an eligible receiver. Micah Parsons, extremely disruptive. Bland, Mr. Pick 6, especially throughout the first half of the year. This team is tough top to bottom as well. A little worried because they've been shaky in the playoffs, but that's not an entire excuse because at number 1, we've got the Ravens, a team that has not been to the Super Bowl in a little bit. It's been a decade, right? And we've got Andy checking in saying, heard about that brutal weather on the radio. Agree with your top 4 overall. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I feel like these are all pretty dominant programs. We look at the Ravens, plain and simple. They're allowing the least amount of points per game in the league. 16.5. On average, they are giving up 2 touchdowns and a field goal every single game. There's fluctuations there for sure, but on an average day, that is what the Ravens are giving up. That's why I really think whoever comes out of this Texans-Browns matchup or however things stack up, right, it's going to have a real tough job against this Ravens defense. Let's say C.J. Stroud makes it, taking phenomenal care of the ball. But how much playoff football has he played? And against the toughest defense. It is all about who is hot right now and who can take on the best of the best. I'm not saying he can't do that, but experience may play a factor. So, okay, we've got Joe Flacco, right? He's been slinging it. I love Joe Flacco. I love this story. I love the fact that a team that lost Nick Chubb a couple of weeks into the season has lost Amari Cooper for an extended period of time, lost their quarterback in Deshaun Watson, went through DTR as well. The fact that they are in the playoffs tells me Kevin Stefanski's got that Coach of the Year award locked up. But if they were to play the Ravens, we do have to keep in mind Joe Flacco has thrown 8 interceptions in 5 games. Project that over an entire season. Do a little quick math. We're talking about somebody throwing 20-plus interceptions. Is that a fair comparison? I don't know. He had to take some chances for a team with their playoff hopes on the line. The AFC North was really tough. I think turning the ball over is going to be a recipe for disaster, even if you do it once or twice, against a team like the Ravens, who's not giving up points to begin with. So that's kind of my claim there. All right, Andy's saying no problem. So, folks, those are the rankings. 14-1, we go Eagles, Lions, Bucks, Texans, Packers, Dolphins, Rams, Steelers, Bills, Chiefs, Browns, 49ers, Cowboys, Ravens. And I will just point out again, I think any of these top 4 have a legitimate shot. Any of these top 6 have a legitimate shot at the Super Bowl, at winning the entire thing because of how strong they are on the opposite side of the ball. Yeah, Kevin Stefanski, definitely Coach of the Year. I have to agree. Folks, pretty quick live stream. Just wanted to rank those defenses. Let me know who you have at number 1. If you want to give me your whole rankings in the chat below, you can feel free to do so. Again, we did just drop our NFL playoffs prediction video 2 days ago. Almost at 1,000 views. If you can leave a like there and comment who you have winning it all. Give me a little bit of interaction there. I want to hear who you have. I already told you who I have. Let me know who you have. I would greatly appreciate a little conversation there. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Again, Discord link in the chat below. If you want to chat fantasy all day, every day, you can do that. That is absolutely free. If you would like some armchair fantasy football merchandise, high-quality sweatshirts, high-quality t-shirts, high-quality bucket hat, We've got a nice mug as well for a pretty affordable price. There's another link in the description for that as well. Otherwise, folks, we will see you in the next video or live stream. Enjoy Super Wildcard Weekend.